Hello everybody and welcome back to the Feather River Canyon. I am doing an update because it's the 2.5 year anniversary of this version here in Atlanta, Georgia. Thought I'd start in the BNSF staging area, which also shares the control room. We made big changes on all the wiring. I'll get to some of that in a minute. Here you can see 3 staging tracks that we use for the BNSF Highline coming off of Ketty Y. And basically it goes into a tunnel through the wall and into the layout room, hides behind some mountains and pops out at the Ketty Y. Here you can see I have done a lot of work in tearing out the old control panel boards and completely revamping how we're delivering power. Up in the upper right is the Raspberry Pi right there. And then that is connected to the LocoNet through a Loco buffer here. And what we're doing is that's connected to the DCS 100, which is this one here. That's running the track power and all the controls for the trains. LNRP is running the RF radio frequency UR91s. We've dedicated this booster to just an accessory bus, and I'll be adding a Tam Valley booster. It's on its way in the mail. We're finding that we don't have enough juice for the 69 accessories I already have hanging on that bus, and probably another 30 more to come. But this has seemed to be a much better architecture where we've distributed the boosters out on the layout into 3 sections. So all of that's coming out from the control room. As we leave the control room, we've also moved the dispatcher. To my right is the bulletin board, and I've been putting a map of where we are in the Feather River Canyon, plus some photos and just good times that we've had, rail fanning or different group events. Here I thought was a good idea to put a timeline just so we had an idea and remember the various times that we hit milestones. So in the beginning over here, June of 2016, I had an empty basement. Here the first module was put in July 23rd of 2016. So I kind of consider that the start date. And we're just past, excuse me, we just passed the 2.5 year mark for that. And just had great times and a lot of progress thanks to a lot of good friends. On the wall is a collection of some of my memorable cars, and even the very first train I ever got right down there in 1972. Yes, sir. Doing it a long time. Big improvement here. We now have a dispatcher panel, and thanks to Rick Hemingway and Adam Preble, this is the way the 2 27-inch monitors are laid out. The lower level Feather River Route Valley sub is on the left, and on the right is the Canyon sub, basically the upper level of the layout. The lower left and lower right corners are going to be monitoring the staging yards for trains coming in and out of there. And then we have track circuit status, so any of the 8 power districts, that'll soon be 12, can be identified where the short is during an operating session. The fast clock can be adjusted, stopped, and run at any particular time. Over here you see we have the ability to go with CTC or ABS and whether to do approach lighting or not. So that is super fun. I will show you the results of all the work on the signaling. Here we enter the train room. Straight ahead of us and near the door to the outside where most of the train guys come in is the crew lounge. We've added some decor, train pictures, etc. The messy table here is kind of a working table with all of our electronics, kind of a temporary thing, but really handy when we're doing work and troubleshooting and wiring and all of that sort of thing. On the right is the lower and upper staging yards. I think that gives you a pretty good view. They're identical, reverse loop, so that we can turn the trains easily. Since last time we've added some tracks, so now we have 3 arrival tracks, you see those in the foreground, and 8 ultimately staging tracks for departures. So trains will be set up to go out heading eastbound, and on the upper level, same thing, 3 in the front for arrivals and 8 at the back. I'll be adding 2 more here shortly to the 6 that are there. And then those are heading westbound down toward the San Francisco-Oakland area. So we've added some intuitive and informative signage. So Portola showing the west to the left, east to the right, which is map correct. But we needed it because the lower level is the opposite. We have east to the left and west to the right. So moving along here, I'll do kind of both levels at the same time. On the upper level, we have the Portola Rail Museum. So those tracks are in, and that's where I keep a lot of my older equipment. The 2882 Mallet is a steam sound-equipped engine that's kind of fun to run around. The little yellow switcher back there is going to be the switcher for Yonkins Lumber that's up there in the distance to the right. On the lower level, this will be Tesla plant, as well as other industries. So this will be a heavy industrial switching area that the locals from Stockton will come out and switch. Heading down here on the lower level, I have the Port of Oakland. I'm looking forward to picking up the boat that goes in there that Peter Kim's been working on. And I'll be picking that up at the end of February. So that's going to be great to have that back in there. This is about to be Yonkins Lumber, named after Jim Yonkins. And I have that laid out, just need to add the track. I've been so concentrated on the electronics lately. And that would be a good segue into, here's how the electronics look down below. And you can see that basically we have the SE8Cs, we have some breakout boards from Aculites, we have the BDL168s for detection, and then that's the new power boards that include the PM42s on the left there. So these are the PM42 circuit protection. These are the Tam Valley boosters, which I really like. They are pumping up the signal strength and the voltage to the track, and a separate 5 amp power supply there. And I have now 3 of these boards throughout the layout, so we're getting much better power than we had before. We were getting a lot of problems when we had heavy operating sessions. So as we go up and around, the corners filled in, but I'm looking forward to getting back to some scenery here soon, and getting this area all kind of fixed up. The Clio trestle will go in above there, and this is going to be Kabasi coal. That's a change from the gravel pit that I was going to be doing. And this is inspired by a lot of the big unit coal trains that I'll be running. It goes through the wall there, and on the other side, which we'll see in a minute, is going to be a power plant. So it's the loads out, empties in, and the opposite for the other side. So this will be a great industry to do some switching. And it has its own switcher, which you see right there, thanks to John Sodaro, who scrubbed off the road name, and we'll just leave it black like that. So you can see the signals here. We use a mounting method using a clear vinyl tube that's just the right size for the Digitrax signal boards. I have brass details that will detail those signals, but while we were installing them and making sure we didn't damage those, we just left them as is. They're pretty sturdy as is now. With all the handling, we didn't want to break them. So good news is we have all of the main line done and just a few more left to go. And one of the things that you'll see here on the board side fascia are these controllers. The singlet from Tam Valley is behind there, and it comes with the buttons and LEDs and makes local switching easy, and the dispatcher can turn those off if needed. Again, going through here, this is now redone. The original one was a tunnel until I realized, thanks to some YouTube videos, that it's actually not a tunnel at all. It goes under Highway 580. It's actually just a bridge, so I redid this and looking forward to getting back to that. Here's some of the Tam Valley equipment. That's a relay, so that throws the turnout polarity. And those have become really handy to be able to stick in there and troubleshoot if needed. Williams Loop is up here. Nothing changed there. Looking forward to blending all this scenery in. And around here, I'll probably do a little farming town where that trailer truck is. And just a little town there, like more of the Central Valley of California, a lot of those little towns, little farming towns, and a big farm here, so we'll kind of blend that farm in. And then it rolls into Stockton. This is the big division yard for the layout. There'll be some industries to switch in the back, but this will keep two operators busy. And lots of unit trains coming in. I do have a switch or an operating scheme that we've tried out a couple of times. I'll just keep refining that. In this blank area here, we'll be servicing for the engines, and that's going to be a scrap yard. Again, scenery up here, nice flowing lines of the main line, but I want to get the trees and the rest of the scenery in there. And here's the other side of that the power company on this side. It's also in conjunction with the BNSF crossing. So the BNSF trains you see hiding there, those two tracks behind it are going to be the staging tracks that come onto the layout at Stockton like they do in the prototype. They have trackage rights to Keddie, and then they come off and go into the room where we started this video. This is the power plant and interchange yard, so we can keep someone busy here as well, adding some interest to the operations, at least on the lower level. We have a nice branch line that comes off of Quincy Junction there, and that nice trestle by Steve Gallus. The trains will just come on and go into the tunnel, hide there, and come back on as needed, just for a little operational interest on the upper level, which doesn't have much as it does in the real railroad. It goes through Stockton here, just more scenic, little downtown through the levee. And then here you'll see the Keddie Y, and that track going to the back is controlled by a signal back there, and it goes into a hole. It'll be disguised with a tunnel portal and trees, and that goes into that staging room. What I'm working on right now is just adding the cardboard and shapes to this area here. There'll be a tunnel as it goes into this tunnel and out onto the Keddie Y. I'll be following that up with filling in this area down here. We're down to just a few open benchwork areas, and that's my goal next after all this wiring and scenery, is to do more scenery. I found these backdrops just tucked away in all my stuff and thought they might fit well up here. So I just tacked them up to see how they look. I kind of like them, so I'll be doing a more permanent mounting of that. It just helps to give the illusion that now you're up on the upper level and you're still climbing. It climbs from Oroville up to Keddie, and so probably about a 2.4% grade most of the way. So it's good because the trains have to work. Usually 2 engines can make it. Sometimes a heavy train, I might put a third one on. This is going to be a scene of the Oroville Dam and the bridge that goes in front of it. And then it's typical California hills. You can see I've started to add the trees there, the big oak trees that'll be part of this type of scenery, whereas the upper level is going to have more of the mountain scenery. Nice thing is we got a couple of signal bridges here. You can see, thanks to Shapeways and some work by Rick to mount those signal heads, we now have working signals for the 3 tracks at Pulga. And boy, we've really used these long extra sidings. This is the midpoint of the railroad, and during op sessions, we really need it. Here's a siding called Elsie, which is on the real railroad. I used Google Maps to locate some pictures of what that gravel pit looks like. And they provide gravel for the BNSF and UP for ballast. So we'll be able to source it there, and the locals coming out of Stockton will basically come up, switch this, and go back and maybe interchange at the BNSF interchange. Here I had to transition from the lower level to the upper level, so I'm climbing on both tracks, but I try to not to have two tracks in the same scene, but this is my solution, and a lot of trees and foliage will help blend that together, but that's basically where the second level starts. Here you can see the other 3 signal bridge, but the electronics are on top. We wanted to make sure we tested and it ran fine before we reconnected it under the layout. And then as it comes up here, it's coming up from the lower level, goes across the trestle. I just scenicked all this a few months ago before we did the wiring. This is going to be a scene of the Feather River going through by Poe on the left. That'll be the Poe power plant. And basically it will be filled in here shortly with trees and foliage and all of that sort of thing. But really enjoy this part of the hobby, doing the scenery. And of course, North Fork Bridge as it transitions into that tunnel and pops out into the Pulga siding. But this should be a very nice scene. I also didn't want a big barrier, big backdrop right through the middle of this. So I think this was a good solution. And there's even a prototype picture I picked up off Google that shows the North Fork Bridge and the Poe power plant all in that scene. So I'll try to recreate as much as I can on that scene. I even use prototype pictures like that one to give people who haven't been there an understanding of what it looks like in the real world. And then of course the crew lounge and the world's messiest workbench, which that is going to be cleaned. I am committed to cleaning that next week. It's just gotten dumped on while we did all this work. So there you have it. I'll swing back here just so you can get a kind of an overall picture. There you see the loop coming on the left. It's a very simple plan as far as going up and down the room. Overall room size is 53 feet. Width is 16 feet. Aisles are at least 4.5 feet wide or more, which I really like. And here I think you get a pretty good idea of the length of the room. And lots of room when the operators are here, but you'd be amazed that even then things get cracked. So that's it for today. I know it's a long one, but I wanted to give a full overview of where we stood 2.5 months in. Hopefully by the end of 2019, we'll see most of the scenery done, all of the electronics done, and just start detailing scenes as we go. Y'all have a good day and have a great Model Railroading 2019.